Well, let me go ahead and introduce our first reader. So I met Laura a couple of years ago. I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, at a film festival called Horrible Imaginings, and we bonded over Hamilton pretty quick, and yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, she's been a big inspiration to me, actually, because she is also a filmmaker, and an author, and singer, right? I mean, musician?
And writer.
I mean, hey.
And an actor.
Yeah, I mean, everything. Everything. So, everything I want to do.
Yeah.
So, she's got books out called Angel Meat, Haunt, Phantasma, and my favorite title of all time, Long Form Religious Porn. And then she's got a movie that she wrote and directed called Boned. And I'm very pleased to introduce Laura Lee Bahr.
Thank you. So I'm going to actually read something. I've never actually read this aloud before. This is a short story that I wrote that was in an anthology called This Book Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, a Wu-Tang anthology. So this is a Wu-Tang tribute anthology. If you're familiar with Wu-Tang, the story might have a little bit more, like, oh, but maybe not. This story is called The One Who Swallows the Sea. I Can't Go to Sleep. I am awake, drowning in nightmares. The men in suits are busy tonight, crawling all over this town. Flies spying with 6,000 little eyes, the men in suits see the scariest shit as candy. They lay maggots as they move, boring down into the flesh of every living thought, consuming our minds from the inside out. I lie staring at nothing, trying to get the screens behind my eyelids to stop projecting the rapid-fire movies of the horror of how hopeless it all seems. You struggle and push and struggle, and with a blip, they have you bleeding out, and no one cares about you any more than they do for the animal between a bun. All I am to them is meat. But it doesn't matter what I am to them. Tomorrow is my battle. Futile or not, I will fight. But I can't go to sleep. I can't go to sleep. I can't. I'm so scared. I'm so scared that I call out into the darkness of the room. Help, I say, help. I see Jackie Kennedy holding her husband's brain. I hear his brain spilling out into the screams of no, no, I wasn't ready to go. I feel the fires that burn millions into ash. I ache in my limbs for the discarded, dismembered, destroyed. But still, I must face down my own death. Help me, Jesus. Help me to sleep, so that I may awake and fight well for a better day. A miracle happens then. Jesus appears. His eyes are obscured in a shroud, but his heart is beating, bleeding, glowing. It is outside his chest, floating in a fire like it does in all those paintings where he points at his heart and is like, look at this freaking heart, will ya? And if that wasn't miracle enough, he speaks. I am here, he says, and his voice is a ringer for Isaac Hayes. I am here for you. Wow, I say, of course amazed. Thank you so much for coming. I am very honored that you actually came. The one set of footprints is where I carried you, just in case you were wondering, he says. I wasn't, but I thank him anyway for letting me know. So here's the thing, I say to Jesus. I have to sleep, but I can't go to sleep. Can you help? And not just with the sleep, but if you could help me with this big fight I have tomorrow, well, that would be really righteous. The fight is important, he says. But you cannot win if you lack courage in your heart. You must be brave. Right, I say, but that's the problem. How can I just be brave? All my fear floods back in. Can't you see how frightened I am? How messed up everything is in the world, and in just my piece of it? Don't you know that I heard the scream of a woman down the street, and I did nothing but lie here in the dark and hope I wasn't next? Don't you know that I can't even walk at night for fear? But sometimes, also, I am too afraid even in the day. Don't you know that I try to hide my face, my body, and stare no one in the eye, knowing that at any moment I could have to fight for my very life, just because I am meat to them? Don't you know how I quiver, not just from the fear of the men in suits, but from all men? How can I be brave, knowing what it is that they do? What they did? Even to you. Shh, he says in that voice like Isaac Hayes' sigh. And I can almost forget for a moment and go under his heart in nightlight. But no, it is too disturbing if I look too closely. And then I'm wide awake again, thinking about how his heart is bleeding as it beats, bleeding, beating, bleeding still. I will tell you a story so you can sleep. He is singing, and I can stop staring at his heart and lose myself again in his voice. Do you know the story of the 6 sisters of Shaolin? I say, thinking of some stories that sound similar that I know, but he has already started. In the quiet mountains of Shaolin, 6 sisters lived happily, caring for each other and the monks in a nearby monastery. Each sister looked exactly alike, and though the sisters would rotate who brought the monks their meals, the monks believed that it was the same woman. The sisters looked identical, but each sister had a special power. One could see anything at any distance, even through space and time. The second sister could hear any sound, even the heartbeat of the earth at its core. The third had unbreakable bones. The fourth could never be burned. And the fifth could sing to make anyone move, even the mountains, to whatever rhythm she sang. And the sixth could swallow the sea for 7 minutes. I don't want to interrupt Jesus' story. I appreciate that he's here and all, trying to tell me a bedtime story, but I really would prefer an answer to my question. So I just remind him, but how does this story answer how I can be brave, knowing how pervasive my enemies are, knowing how they torture and kill even you? No offense, but they tortured and killed you. Shh, he says gently, and it is like a beautiful breeze of a sound that quiets the storms in my mind. And I can listen again as he continues in that sing-speak voice. Each morning, the 6th sister would walk down the mountain, past the small village, and to the end of the sea. There, secretly, she would swallow it and collect the shining fish for her and her sisters and the monks of the nearby monastery to eat. Now, one morning, as the 6th sister returned from the edge of the sea, 3 fishermen saw her with her basket of fish. How is it that she has caught so many fish this morning? We were up very early and caught nothing, said one. Every morning, no matter how the fish are jumping, she brings home a basket just the same, said the second. We must find out her secret, said the third. The next morning, they followed the 6th sister to the edge of the sea and watched in amazement as she swallowed it, and then simply picked her fish up off the ground. Well, they weren't going to just watch, because now, for the taking, was not just plentiful fish, but sunken treasures, beautiful corals, and rare shells, and they ran out to collect what they could. The 6th sister was dismayed that her secret had been revealed, but far more concerned that the fishermen seemed to not understand that they had a limited time. She could not hold the sea for any longer than 7 minutes, and she waved and waved for them to come back. Oh, they saw her waving, and the men made fun of her, mocking her as she waved at them. And then she ran further out and away, and try as she might, she could not get them back. She could not. And at last, she could not hold the great waters any longer, and the sea burst forth from her mouth, and the men disappeared beneath it. Oh, right, I know this story, I said. The villagers put her on trial for the drowning of the men and try to execute her, first by hanging or beheading, and then the sister whose bones can't be broken take her place. And then they try by burning, and the sister who can't be burned takes her place, etc., etc., and each sister's special power saved her, and she tag teams the next one. But really, it goes a different way than what you're saying. Okay, then you tell it, Jesus says. You know it so well, you tell it. I hadn't meant to be rude, but I do think he should know how it really goes. So the first sister, who can see anything, even through time and space, she looks out and she sees the villagers coming. She sees what's going to happen to her sixth sister, and that she will be tried and condemned to death. But in looking at the injustice of this act, she starts to see all the injustices that have ever happened and will happen. And she sees all the evil that was ever in the hearts of humankind. And all that she sees is too much horror. And her eyes burn and burn with tears. And she goes blind. And the second one, the one who can hear anything at any distance, even the heartbeat of the earth, she hears first the cry of her sister, who is now blind. And then that cry begins to echo into the cries of mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, friends and lovers, for all that is lost now, all that will be lost forever, and all the people of the world wailing to God for their broken hearts. She can hear the rumblings of the earth as it moves, and she can hear the screams of the suffering of humans until it dims every other sound. And she becomes deaf. And then, with their misguided cries for justice, the villagers grab the third sister to be hung, and they hang her from a huge willow tree. But she does not die. No, because she's the one with the unbreakable bones, and her neck can't be broken, so she just hangs there, year after year, swinging in the breeze, for they never let her down. And her eyes is always seeing those who come to taunt her, or eat picnics beneath her hanging body, who yell insults up at her. And the villagers steal the fourth sister and put her to a stake to be burned. Even though she has a sister who can't be burned, they don't care. So her skin never melts, and she never becomes ash, but they just like looking at her face through the curtain of flames. And they keep the fire going, and she is there in the fire, still, not burning. And they joke and roast marshmallows, and name the names of all the martyrs and witches they have burned, and ask her if she can hear them and see them in the roar of the fire there too. And the fifth sister, who can sing any song to make anyone move, she goes to the monastery, and she sings a song to the peaceful monks that make them grab weapons of war and move to kill the villagers who have tormented her sister. The songs of war become the only songs she sings to make people march and march on to slay each other. War, war, war forever, for vengeance for the horrors her sister saw that made her blind. War for the sounds of the terror that made her sister deaf. War for her sister who hangs forever, for her sister who burns eternally, and what of the one who swallowed the sea? Jesus interrupts. In your story, what of her? Oh, see, you told it wrong at the beginning, I say, forgetting whom I am talking to, and that perhaps I shouldn't correct him. That poor sister who swallowed the sea, she has it the worst of all. Because it wasn't 3 fishermen who followed her, actually, but a school of children. And they were all very hungry. And they all promised to follow directions exactly. And she thought she would make sure that they all got plenty of fish to eat. But instead they were all distracted and forgot to listen and started playing. And they didn't see that she was jumping up and down, telling them all to come back. They didn't know that she held the water in for longer than she possibly could. And then her cheeks finally just burst, and the sea came out in this huge wave that drowned all the children. No one can ever forgive her. Not herself, nor anyone else. She can never be forgiven. Her mouth is broken now, and she can hold nothing now, so she just looks out onto the sea, looking for the faces of any children, hoping one is still alive and can swim back to shore. It is quiet in my room, but for the beat of Jesus' heart, and mine too. That is a very sad story, Jesus says. Not the way I was going to tell it, but I must admit it has a certain ring to it. Do you think telling the story that way can make you brave in your heart for your fight tomorrow? Well, shit. No, I say. Not at all. It makes me feel the same way I was feeling when I called for you in the first place, to help me sleep in prayer, and didn't listen, but I guess that's the problem. My thoughts are so loud, I can't hear anything else, not even your voice, even though it has the divine message and sounds like Isaac Hayes. But if the voice of God can't calm my fears, then I hear a rumble, a roar like water, like thunder, like the earth itself shaking on its foundations. A tornado of sound takes out everything I thought, felt, did, think, feel, do, will think, will feel, will do, to just become the sound, and the sound alone. And now I know what I truly fear. Not the men in suits, not the men of the world after all, but God, creator and destroyer. This roar that promises not just me, but all of us can be swallowed back into itself, and we will all just disappear as less than a thought in the universe's expanding mind. This sound is all there is. But then it becomes still, and I can see the glowing heart of Jesus again. That was just the sound of him clearing his throat. You have told your story, he says. Now hear the ending of mine. The 6 sisters of Shaolin will always survive, no matter what they see, no matter what they hear, no matter how many innocents are swallowed by the sea in ignorance. They always survive because one always gives her special power to save the life of the other. Alone, no sister could survive. But together, each giving her unique gift to redeem the other, they all live happily and simply for the rest of their days. Oh, I say, I think I understand, even though I don't. I sure don't want to hear the rumble voice again. Sleep now, he says. But Jesus, I ask, very quietly and nicely, in this story, which one am I? Which is the one that is a metaphor for me? Which one of the 6 Shaolin sisters am I? But he isn't answering in a voice anymore. He's answering in symbols, writing each of the words that I am on the back of my eyelids. And my eyes follow me in each letter back and forth until they become just a character in Chinese, the one for the sea. And this word becomes not flesh but water. Water pouring out of a mouth that could hold it no longer. And the waves, as it gushes forth, are my lullaby. And the water rocks me and all of us, the horror, the meat, the unforgivable. It washes us away. Empty, I float gently and need nothing but a dream. Thank you.